Welcome, 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 my friends. You got to hear the Easter egg, the very end of that song that you almost never hear, the little doodle 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 doodle. So you're welcome for that, and welcome to the show today. Again, it's just going to be me and my esteemed colleague, producer extraordinaire, Chris. Welcome, Chris. How's it going?
How's it going, everyone? Happy to be here.
Me as well. Well, that didn't make sense. I'm also happy to be here. Once again, same as yesterday, I banished Q to Amsterdam. He's going to be hanging out there on the news desk. It's going to be incredible. So tune in for that. This is the last show we will be doing while Amsterdam is happening. That is to say, Bitcoin Amsterdam, our conference in Europe. Tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday, we will not be doing Bitcoin Magazine Live because the team is going to be laser focused on getting that Bitcoin Amsterdam content to you, our viewers. So be ready for that. We will be back on Friday with your regularly scheduled programming. Today, we're just doing news and notes, and then we're going to call it a day so we can get everything prepped, do our calisthenics, ride around on our skateboards, make sure all the stream is set up. It's going to be fire. But let's dive straight in. So our first story today is directly from the FBI. Just kidding. It's from the New York Post, which they posted a story. It's basically allegedly talking about people who are using the right-wing dating app, The Right Stuff, and apparently people who are using that app answering questions wrong about things like January 6th are being contacted by the FBI. Now, we included this because it's mostly funny. I don't think this is real news, but people are posting reviews saying like, oh, I answered this question wrong about January 6th, or I said some super conservative thing and the FBI knocked on my door. It's very funny, but it's probably just a joke. The reason we're including it is because it is, even as a joke, it is an important reminder that what you post on the internet remains forever. Just because we are in a climate right now where you can kind of in some situations say whatever you want and there aren't consequences, understand that once you release that data out into the internet, it never goes away and can and maybe will eventually be used against you. So be conscious of what you put out there. And that's particularly ironic given how insane a lot of the stuff that I say is, but there it is. Watch yourself, my friends. Let's talk about our next story. Chris, what's going on over in France?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'll add one last thing. Like third parties are security holes, whether that's a dating app, whether that's any platform you're using. So just be careful what you post online and what's going on out there. But now we're headed over to France. So France has spent over 100 billion euros on in 2021. They will also spend 100 billion in 2022 as well as in 2023. What are they spending that money on, might you ask? To fight inflation. So they are quite literally printing money and sending it out to their citizens in order to help fight the inflation from energy prices going up, among many other things that we've seen over the last 3 years. So this was said by the finance minister Bruno Le Maire on Monday. It's pretty funny. This comes right after Bank of England has continued to buy gilts or their equivalent of treasury bills to expand their balance sheet. So, I think we have been talking about it on FedWatch a bunch with Ansel and CK that government's going to keep printing money and it's a race to zero. And Europe is in a much worse situation than the U.S. The U.S. is not in a great situation either, but nonetheless, government's going to print. Anything to add there, Pete?
Just these fucking people. I mean, it's really sad because the average person does not have time to deeply understand how financial systems work. And really, we should all be in a situation where if you earn money, if you produce value, you should be able to store that fucking value in a system that does not just melt away or evaporate because of the actions of central banks. But that is not the world we live in. If you are an individual, if you made the terrible, terrible mistake of thinking that you could do the modern equivalent of putting your money under a mattress, that is to say just saving cash in your bank account, you've been getting fucked by the government, by the central banks of the world since for a very long time, but infinitely more so since 2008. And that's a really sad thing. And this kind of stuff is so upsetting to me because the government's like, oh, they're finally acknowledging like, oh yeah, inflation's a real thing. Like, I'm so sorry, costs are going up, but don't worry, we got it. We're just going to print some more money to solve this inflation problem. And the average person doesn't understand that that is only going to make it worse. This is going to continue happening. It's fucked up. It's hilarious. It's sad. You got to laugh or you're going to cry. Maybe you do both at the same time. Fuck these people. On that note, Kathy Wood of ARK Invest has written an open letter to the Fed. And in this letter, they wrote this letter saying, out of concern that the Fed is making a significant policy error that will cause deflation. They offered some data given, with from their quants, saying that trying to basically encourage the Fed to alter its course during its next decision on November 2nd. They're saying in the face of conflicting data, the unanimity of the Fed's last decision to increase the Fed fund rates by 75 basis points was surprising. They say in this summary, they delineate first the upstream price deflation that is likely to turn into downstream deflation. They focus on two primary variables, employment and headline inflation, upon which the Fed seems to be making its decisions. In their view, both are lagging indicators. They argue that commodity prices are leading indicators and upstream in the stages of processing. Most commodity prices have peaked except for food and energy, which are falling on a year-over-year basis. They have a great chart. Unfortunately, this is not going to change anything. The Fed is going to continue to do what it's doing and driving us towards larger and larger extremes, which is to say they're doing their best to kind of ease things so that people are not driven to social unrest, but it feels more and more like that is the situation we're headed towards. Anyway, ARK, I applaud you. Kathy Wood, applaud you for trying to get the Fed to do the right thing, to adjust its outlook, but they are a reactive or a reactionary body rather than a proactive one. They present themselves as a proactive body. That is to say, they argue that they set policy, that their job is to drive the economy towards a positive outcome. But the unfortunate reality is that they are almost exclusively reactive. They're flying by the seat of their pants, and they're going to drive us towards a bad outcome. Buy Bitcoin. What do we got next?
So lawmakers overwhelmingly support in the EU or in Europe. They're supporting the MiCA crypto law, MiCA crypto law, in committee vote. It passed 28-1, so 28 in favor, 1 against. Landside support paves the way for the landmark crypto licensing regulation to take effect in 2024. It just has to pass the Governor Board of Approvals, I believe. What does this all mean? So we were talking about months ago that the EU was trying to go after what they call as unhosted wallets, or what we would call as self-custody, taking self-custody of the Bitcoin to your own wallet and using your own node to verify that. So what does this mean? They're going after and they're trying to restrict people from using unhosted wallets or, basically self-custodying their Bitcoin. They will allow you to hold Bitcoin is what it looks like, or at least the regulation is shaping up. You just have to use it either through a custodian that they approve or, a broker dealer or that has like a financial license in order to do so, like a normal bank. Or if you hold an unhosted wallet, they're going to make it very, very difficult to you. And if you don't abide by these laws, fines and jail can ensue. What do I mean by that? If I wanted to, myself, Chris, wanted to send Bitcoin to Pete, and I sent it with an unhosted wallet that they claim is bad, they would want me to send the amount that I'm sending, so the amount of Bitcoin that I'm sending, the equivalent of what it is in euros or pounds, and then also to basically include his details, his name, his number, his email address. They went as short as saying including their equivalent of like a social security number, but like basically I'd have to identify who I'm sending it to, why I'm sending it to them, and the amount that I'm sending. P and I believe that this is a broad overreach, and obviously, this is the then they fight you stage. They are afraid of what Bitcoin can do. It can usurp the governments, and it can prevent them from being able to print money at will, without basically without repercussion. Bitcoin shows those repercussions. So I think this is a broad overreach. I think this is very bad. This is very scary. And I think the EU is going through their own problems right now that it remains to be seen that, with just this winter alone, if like nations are going to start defuncting from the EU. And it's pretty funny. Christine Lagarde says we're in anti-EU fragmentation, which basically means she wants to keep the whole family together without having anyone get divorced or break up or leave. I think policies like this do not help that cause. That only exacerbates it and make it more likely to happen. Pete, anything else you want to add there?
No, man. I mean, you nailed it. This is fucking crazy. It's literally, it's
Throw
really
privacy out the window. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I mean, there's so much wrong with this frame. It's kind of difficult to unpack it in a short amount of time. But this is as you said, it's a gross overreach. This is kind of a capitulation in the sense that the EU and centralized entities that control or that are attempting to control our money are becoming more and more aware that they cannot defeat Bitcoin on a level playing field, right? Bitcoin disintermediates the process of transacting between two people. And that is a massive issue for these existing entities. These existing entities, central banking systems, are kind of a cancer, and they are fighting tooth and nail to maintain their own relevance and to maintain their own control, right? And I also like they're doing what their incentives drive them to do. Their goal is to maintain power because they believe that they are the only ones that can effectively guide the world towards a more positive outcome. They're categorically wrong, but they're going to do everything they can. They're not fighting fair. They're convincing everybody that only terrorists need to be free of or need to have privacy, which is an insane statement. But this is just that, continuing. That we're going down that route. I always think of that Christine Lagarde quote where she said, I should just have this on my soundboard as like an immediate thing I can play. But where she says basically that we have to block all the exits. Literally like there's a fire happening and we can't let anybody leave the fire in the theater because if we allow exits to exist, people will remove themselves from our central bank controlled slavery. And we can't let that happen because God forbid people were able to actually manage their own finances effectively and do what is best for them. We have to punish them by forcing them to bear the burdens of a failing society, which, they've created. That's what's going on here.
She sounds like a sociopath, which she is, but she sounds like an arson sociopath serial killer. That's like, we're gonna light the building on fire, we're gonna lock all the exits up, and we're gonna let everyone burn inside. Like, literally.
Yeah. So this is kind of interesting, right? We were talking about this yesterday with June Seth and American Hodl, right? They were saying like, it's sort of a race to Hitler. And I totally understand with like obviously the direction that they were going, the argument they're making, but I also think it is important that we actually, despite what the rhetoric that I use, that we demonize these people less. And the reason for that is that if we demonize them, if we otherize them so significantly without acknowledging the incentives that they're under, we actually lose predictive power. We lose the ability to understand what's happening and to act accordingly and use strategies that are kind of 5 steps ahead. Because if someone is like a demon from another plane whose motivations are sociopathic and completely uninterpretable, then it's very difficult to feel like you're in a position of power. It's very difficult to actively predict what they're going to do and react. If we acknowledge like there are fucked up incentives that are driving these, mostly rational actors, then we can plan around them and be like, okay, here's how we have to play the game of chess in order to create incentive structures that ultimately force, governments, states, entities, individuals to adopt this much better system of money. I don't know. A long-winded statement. I don't know if you have any thoughts there, Chris.
No, I know Odell's been saying a lot. He doesn't believe in dehumanizing people. Don't use even what they do. It does not lead historically to great outcomes when you dehumanize another group of people or peoples. And I think Odell is right. If we want to be a peaceful revolution, we would definitely want to be careful with our choice words. So I take what you're saying, Pete. I was doing it in jest, and it's
Oh,
very
me
easy
too.
to make
I'm
fun
all
of.
about it. I'm like, fuck these people. They want you to eat bugs. Also, bugs are good. Are they? Who knows? So I'm as guilty as anyone. But all joking aside, and it's interesting that Odell talks about it from that perspective. I think that is potentially an even more effective frame. Like, we do not want to be, it's like, I forget who said it, but like, he who, gets, what is it? He who becomes a monster gets rid of the pain of being a man. I think that leads to, I think what Odell is pointing out is that leads to violence and, regret. My point is an even more simplistic one, which is the most effective strategy is one in which you can, if not empathize with, understand your adversary's motives. And so we need to be acknowledging that they are acting under incentives which we understand, and thus we can combat.
Definitely.
Well, let's keep going. I like to always insert stories that are kind of, smaller stories, but that are indicative of kind of growth in the larger movement. Our next story is about a warehouse this was on Reddit. Warehouses in the Netherlands are replacing natural gas heating with repurposed heat from solar-powered Bitcoin miners. Not a lot of people know this, but ASICs are incredibly efficient technological devices. They are very, very good at taking electricity and converting it into heat. They're more efficient than some space heaters that you can buy. They have the additional benefit, instead of doing unproductive work, that is to say, when you have like a space heater, it has the electric coil and it just glows red and gets hot and produces heat. Bitcoin miners produce hot air as well, but they have the additional benefit of contributing to the security of the Bitcoin network and earning you Bitcoin while you are running them. So I think we are going to enter into a world in the very near future, I hope that we do, where ASICs are just inside everything. And there's no reason why you can't use ASICs to heat, for example, hot tubs, pools, homes, buildings. CoinHeated is an awesome person everybody should be following on Twitter, who talks a lot about this. We've got a Connor Alchemist who talks about this. We had a great panel at Bitcoin 2022 about, it's called mining for the streets, where we talked about using waste heat from ASIC miners to heat things like greenhouses, homes. So anyway, large-scale warehouses are doing this in the Netherlands. I'm actually going to be using an ASIC miner to heat a chicken coop and a rabbit hutch over this winter. ASICs are great. You can heat shit and also earn Bitcoin. Let's keep going. Chris, tell us about Facebook and why they support terrorism.
Yes. So Russia adds Meta, previously Facebook, to the list of terrorist and extremist organizations. So what does that mean? Basically, Russia feels that Facebook, or Meta, is giving them unfair press and basically just propagating a pro-war stance. So it is now added them to the terrorist and extremist organizations. Further, I don't want to say amplifying the tensions that are going on in the Russia-Ukraine conflict right now. So that's pretty much that. Anything else you want to add there, Pete?
No, I mean, this comes to us from the BBC. The two platforms were banned in Russia for Russophobia. It followed Meta's announcement that it would report posts such as "death to Russian invaders," but not credible threats against civilians. Meta has appealed the ban, but it was upheld by a Moscow court. We're going to start seeing more and more of this, I think. Trump was very actively against WhatsApp. It was TikTok, right? Trump hated TikTok. Yeah. Argued that it was a Chinese propaganda tool, and that may or may not be true. But it's interesting that as we enter this kind of next phase of global conflict, the tools, the private companies that have become extremely popular become pawns in this game of chess, and very active ones. So I think we're going to see more and more of this. We're going to see more countries that try to ban U.S. very popular applications. I think we're going to see the U.S. trying to ban other apps that other countries control. It's going to get spicy.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Like, China has banned Google, Facebook, Amazon, like you name it. Like, they basically ban everything, and then when they ban it, they basically just recreate it just in the Chinese economy. So there's Alibaba or WeChat or all these different things. Like, they basically just, I don't want to say they duplicate it, but basically that's what they do, and they just centralize it to themselves.
Yeah, and the Chinese patent system is designed or is basically supports the the quote unquote theft of intellectual property from other countries. Unless you are a Chinese citizen, it's not possible to, you don't have really any protections in court around, patents or intellectual property. So there's that's why China has so many effective clones of very popular software products in other countries, whereas other countries do not necessarily have that. Yep. All right. The main story of the day is, of course, Google partnering with Coinbase. CNBC reports that Google has selected Coinbase to take cloud payments with cryptocurrencies, and they will also use Coinbase as a custody tool. This is huge news. Google will start allowing a subset of customers to pay for cloud services with digital currencies early next year. They're also going to be exploring Coinbase Prime for storing and trading cryptocurrencies. And Coinbase will be moving some of its applications to Google Cloud from Amazon Web Services. This is a big deal, especially because, as we talked about on the show before, we are in a bear market right now. And for those of you who have not been through a Bitcoin bear market previously, even as recently as 2017, 2018, when we entered the bear market, everyone and their fucking mother was like, Bitcoin is trash. Bitcoin is garbage. See, I always knew cryptocurrencies were bullshit. It's funny money. It doesn't mean anything. And the fact that even in the depths of this bear market, where the price of Bitcoin has crashed, by over 60%, the fact that major entities as large as Google are conceding to Bitcoin, they're bending the knee to Bitcoin, is fucking massive. We've never seen that in a bear market before. We've never seen companies that normally and historically have shit all over Bitcoin at the time when Bitcoin is ostensibly at its lowest, being like, fuck, we can't deny it anymore. It's undeniable. We got to bend the knee. We got to, kiss the ring and accept Bitcoin as payment. That's huge. Incredibly bullish news. I'm extremely excited. What do you think, Chris?
I just want to know, are they holding or are they selling? Like that's, is it they accept it and convert it to US dollars, or they hodling it up? Obviously I prefer them to hold it, but as Q always points out, we do not need more large corporations hanging on to Bitcoin longer. So if they want to sell to me, I'm a buyer. So we'll see.
Yeah. And to that point, they may not be holding any Bitcoin, right? They may still think Bitcoin is absolute garbage, but they are in a position where the demand is high enough that they must accept Bitcoin as payment. So that's awesome. I think when people who do not want Bitcoin, do not like Bitcoin, but must accept and acknowledge it, when they start to do so, that is the first step to them actually understanding what Bitcoin is and why it's so important for the success of the human species. Let's keep going.
All right. Stratum V2 is live. This is one gigantic leap for the Bitcoin mining space. So Stratum V2 references an implementation. RSI is here. The independent, community-run, and fully open-source implementation of Stratum V2 protocol is available for pilot testing immediately. I know P and I were talking before the show started. We were saying that we did not think this was going to be implemented into at least 2023, maybe 2024. What is Stratum V2? Stratum V2 is an implementation where Bitcoin miners, it further decentralizes Bitcoin mining. How does it do that? So right now, let's just use a generic example. Foundry is the largest Bitcoin mining pool. I think around 30 or 35% of the hash rate is with this one pool. So what that means is, let's just say I have one ASIC miner and I'm pointing my hash rate at Foundry's pool. Right now, Foundry, when you're pointing it at the pool, if they win a block, they split the block reward, or the 6.25 Bitcoin plus whatever the fees are, amongst the miners that are pointed at their pool by hash rate. So if I have one ASIC miner, let's just say it has 100 terahash per second, just to keep easy math, and they have 1,000,000 terahash total, it's 100 divided by 1,000,000, and then that percentage is how much I would get of the reward. With that being said, the pools have the ability to censor transactions. It's not commonplace for them to do that, but in the past, when pools have tried to do that, many of the miners left that pool to put their hash rate elsewhere. So it's a way of keeping them honest. But with that being said, if a nation state were to come in and say, if you don't censor transactions, we're going to shut you down, we'll throw you in jail, we'll fine you. So in a way, pools are a centralizing force, and I know that's kind of it's just the way that the pools are run. So whoever is running the pool could be found out and censored by going to their house and clamping down on it. And then it would kind of decentralize again, where people would run their own things. But what Stratum V2 allows is, let's just say my ASIC wins the block reward, or like my machine is the one that actually finds the block. With Stratum V2, even though I'm part of Foundry and we're winning the pool, I can set how the block rewards or sets what transactions are included. What do I mean by that is I basically have the implementation or the ability to include all these transactions, and it incentivizes people that if you want to make the most money possible, you want to include the highest fee transactions first, and you can build out your own template to do that. Right now, the pool could technically include 0 transactions and just take the reward of 6.25 and then just disregard all the other fees. But this allows the miners themselves, when their machine finds it, to build out in their own best interest, however they see fit. But it incentivizes. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, Pete, I believe with Stratum V2, they were going to experiment that if you actually don't take the highest fees within like a certain range, like if it's not within 1% or 5% of the most, extracting the most amount of fees, you're actually penalized. But I may be misspeaking there.
Oh, that's so interesting. I hadn't heard that, but that doesn't mean much.
I thought it was something with the implementation to keep people honest still. So it's like, oh, okay, like we included this one or this one because of size or sizing of transactions. But basically, like if you're not within like the 5% max of like what's in the mempool at the time that it happens, you can technically get punished to not receive any fee. There was some, I believe they were testing with something. And like I said, this is just open for pilot testing immediately. So I don't think it's ironed out exactly the way it is, but it's basically it's like with shareholders in a company. If you do not take a deal that helps your company, you can be thrown off, or the company can decide to get rid of that CEO or remove the board, because you're basically removing, you're taking away the financial incentive of your company to generate more income, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. I think Stratum V2 is incredibly bullish. Yeah, I'm extremely excited that it's been implemented this rapidly. We're already in the testing phase, and it's going to be super important as we, head more and more towards this kind of adversarial environment with the central banks of the world, because that's where we're headed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's good stuff, man. My friends, we've come to the end of our show. I want to remind everyone, Bitcoin Amsterdam is tomorrow, and the day after that, we will not be having our normal show. That is to say, we will be not having Bitcoin Magazine live tomorrow and Thursday, so that we can focus exclusively on Bitcoin Amsterdam. We will be live streaming Bitcoin Amsterdam on our YouTube channel. Check it out. It's going to be awesome. Q will be there on the news desk, repping us. It's going to be fantastic. You can, if you are in Europe and you want to go, you can use code BMLive to save 10% on your tickets. We'll be back with your regularly scheduled programming on Friday. So tune in. We'll be tweeting about it. It's going to be great. You do not want to miss the content that's going to be coming out of Bitcoin Amsterdam.
Yeah, and showing some love to the other platforms, not just YouTube. We'll be on Twitch. We'll be on Rumble. We will be on Twitter. We will be on everywhere you can find Bitcoin Magazine. So we're really excited for it. And we hope you guys enjoyed the viewing experience, as P mentioned. If you want to get a last-minute flight from the U.S. over there, if you want to make a flight from Africa, Australia, if you can escape, we're more than happy to have you. Use code BMLive, get 10% off. That's
right. And of course, as always, like and subscribe. Give us a follow. We always appreciate it, and it helps us going forward. We'll talk to you soon, my friends. Stay classy. Peace.